So I finally got my hands on the Pimax Dream Air to give it a real test, really play on it and get a feel for it and that kind of thing. And I really don't want to bury the lead on this, guys. I really like this headset, but even though I really like it, I'm really not sure that it matters. Alrighty guys, welcome back to Fix My Oculus, the channel where we fix, repair, tear down, and talk about all things VR. And if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe for more VR related content like this. Also, just a quick housekeeping thing, the Fix My Oculus giveaway is still going from the last video that I did. We're doing 2 bundles of Meta Quest accessories, one for the 3 and one for the 3S. And it's free to enter on our website, fixmyoculus.com, or you can click the link down in the description below to check it out. Okay, before I get too far into this, I want to be straight with you guys. This was not a headset that Pimax asked me to review for them. I got to mess around with it briefly at CES. I kind of kept thinking about it. I kind of bugged them at CES about why I hadn't gotten one yet or been able to check it out. And then eventually I kind of emailed and reached out to them to see if they would actually send me one, because I really just wanted a second look at it. I wanted to check it out a little bit more, test drive it, and try to form some solid opinions on it. I feel like a lot of people who got to test it at CES felt really positively about it, but you know, it's kind of a limited exposure to something like this. Anyway, they said yes. They said that they would send me one to check out, but I had to wait for it because they didn't have any available to send me. So I waited and I waited, and finally, about a month ago, this thing showed up. And since I got it, I've basically been sitting on it, testing it, trying it out, putting it back on the shelf, picking it back up again, and mostly just trying to figure out what I wanted to say about it that I felt like was worth saying. And to that point, I've actually written 2 previous versions of this review, and I ended up throwing both of them out and starting from scratch a 3rd time. Not because they were bad reviews, they were just fine. They were reviews. The problem was that I kept coming back to it, and I kept kind of testing the headset, and my opinions on it kind of kept changing the more that I played on it. I think most reviews are kind of written from this like fixed point of view, like the reviewer already kind of knows how they feel and they're just sort of walking you through it in post. But every time I would try to do that, try to establish some opinions and like, this is what I think about this and this is what I think about this, I would sit down and I would write it out, and then I would kind of think about that for a little bit, and I would realize that my opinion on it had shifted again. Maybe that was because of my first exposure to it at CES, and that was really limited. Maybe it's because I just reviewed the Big Screen Beyond 2E, where I spent like weeks falling in love with that headset. So I kind of needed some time to strip away a lot of the recency bias and actually live with this thing for a little while before I could really say anything about it. What I eventually realized was that I actually have like 2 pretty different things to say about it. One is that it is a genuinely nice headset and I really like it. It may be, and probably is, the best VR headset that Pimax has ever made. And it's probably even better than that statement gives it credit for, but I will get into that a little bit later. And thing number 2 that I really felt like I needed to talk about was that I'm just really not sure that it matters how good this is, or that it's enough to sell it because of the fact that it's a Pimax headset. And every time I try to say both of those things or just one of those things, I just wasn't happy with it. I felt like I either wasn't being honest about how much I really like this headset, or I wasn't paying enough homage to the community sentiment around Pimax and their headsets. So let me start with what I actually liked about this thing, and then I'll get into the harder part. The screens on this headset are the Sony 4K micro OLED panels. They're 3840 by 3552 per eye, and they are excellent, which should not be entirely surprising for anyone who really knows about this headset, because these are basically the same panels that the Apple Vision Pro has. At CES, I made a video where I said they're the same panels, and then somebody nitpicked me on it in the comments, and like technically they are a different part, but they're very, very similar, almost identical. And it was really hard to say whether or not that quality was going to translate to this product, but I think I can say, yeah, it does. Going back to back with the Beyond 2E, which I just reviewed, the Dream Air is noticeably brighter. I think the colors are better too, although I'm honestly not really sure if that's just because they're so much brighter, or whether it's like the panels themselves just have better colors, or maybe that's like a software thing. When we talk about OLED and micro OLED panels, the buzzword around those things is always the blacks. It's got inky blacks. The headset's super black. Oh, the blacks are great. It's got great contrast. We tend to want to know how deep the blacks are compared to LCDs, which are basically kind of gray no matter what, but having deep blacks isn't really enough if you don't have some bright, vibrant colors to balance out those really inky blacks. The Dream Air has both. And to be totally honest with you, I think I owe you guys a bit of credit on this, because a lot of you commented on my Big Screen Beyond 2E review and said that the screens were too dim and the glare bothered you. You were right. I didn't really even notice it or see it as an issue at the time, but going back and forth between the Dream Air and the Big Screen Beyond, it is a night and day difference. The Dream Air just seems to solve that brightness complaint pretty thoroughly, because, well, I think the fan system and the thermal regulation on this unit is just a lot better, and they can jack up the brightness on the screens without the headset getting too hot. A small footnote on that talking point is that the fan on the Dream Air is actually quieter than the Big Screen too. Not that the Big Screen is like really loud, but the Dream Air is just completely silent in all of my testing and playing on it. And I think the moment that actually drove the visuals home for me on this was actually a loading screen. The opening of Super Hot, where it's super black and then that white TV screen shows up. On the Dream Air, that screen is so black, it's like almost disorienting. It feels almost like being blindfolded rather than looking at a VR screen. Then, just for the sake of comparison, I switched back to the big screen and I could immediately see the glare around the edges that I really hadn't noticed before, because it was really just that stark of a contrast. The lenses on this are really nice too, and I think they're worth talking about, because there is some glare. There's a little pupil swim distortion near the center that I noticed, but actually less of both of those things than you would think. And the sweet spot on these lenses is really big too, which is probably due to the fact that the Dream Air just has pretty big lenses. They're the concave pancake lenses, but they're just bigger than other concave pancake lenses. Now, with that being said, I do have one significant criticism of the optics here. Pimax advertises this at 110 degrees horizontal field of view. For me, in my testing, it was closer to like 102 degrees, which is pretty narrow for a modern VR headset. And that's kind of surprising for Pimax, since like FOV and wide FOV is like their whole thing historically. The good news is that the redesigned facial interface they're working on for this headset is supposed to get your eyeballs closer to the lenses, so maybe that helps increase it up to that 110. Hopefully it does. Hopefully it gets better between now and when it retails, because I think that that is one thing that kind of holds this headset back. Oh, and the audio. We need to talk about the audio. The speakers themselves sit in these strap arms in the same way that like the Quest 3 does, but unlike the Quest 3, these actually rest right on your ears, and they kind of make contact with your skull. And it gives the audio this really pleasant bottom end that I am not getting in any of my other headsets. Even something like the Valve Index, which is considered like top tier VR audio, or the Pimax Crystal Super with the DMAS speakers, they're still off-ear speakers. And it just doesn't compare to having the speakers right here the way that the Dream Air does. I really wanted to find a way to convey the difference in audio quality between the headsets that I was testing, so I put a test together and I'm gonna show that to you guys now. I feel like the Dream Air sounds really good, even through a microphone, even without that low-end resonance touching your skull. The Quest 3 kind of sounds like audio coming through a phone speaker, and the Big Screen Beyond, even with the deluxe audio strap, is pretty quiet. But I think you guys can decide for yourselves what you think about it. Pimax does have a listing for the DMAS audio strap as an upgrade on their website, but having tried the DMAS speakers on the other Pimax headsets, I feel like I would be hard-pressed to say that that upgrade is even really necessary. It's definitely not as necessary as like the deluxe audio strap is for the big screen, which doesn't have any built-in speakers. One more thing about the audio that's just kind of worth mentioning is that the microphone quality on this headset is really good. Testing, testing. This is what the microphone sounds like. So if I'm recording something, this is what the microphone's supposed to sound like. And I think it sounds all right, but I'm just testing it, so I don't really know yet. But I guess we're going to find out when I play this in the video. Like Very impressive. And while we're talking about comfort, the big thing here on this headset, or at least one of the big major marketing talking points, is the weight. The module itself comes in at about 173.7 grams. With the strap here, because you can't really disconnect the strap from the cable, you're looking at about 333.4 grams. So it is heavier than the Big Screen Beyond 2E, which is coming in at about 112.5 grams, but not much heavier than the Big Screen Beyond 2E with the deluxe audio strap and the facial interface coming in at 303. I mean, technically it's not really taking the crown on weight, but it is significantly lighter than any other headset that Pimax has ever shipped. The Crystal Light, for example, comes in at a whopping 836.3 grams, which is monstrous. And I have been talking about this on the channel for a while now. I think that this kind of helps solidify in my mind that this really is just the form factor for PCVR going forward. I was at CES in January and I looked at every headset that I could get my face into, and every tethered headset there was under 400 grams and every standalone headset there was over 400 grams. The standalone headsets are just going to need a battery and a bunch of other little things that add a lot of weight. Maybe some of that can be offloaded with puck designs eventually. We've been seeing things like the Meta prototypes, the Galaxy XR, and the Vision Pro all kind of moving in that direction, which is kind of funny if you think about it, because it kind of means that the standalone headsets are caving toward needing cables again just to solve their weight problems. But if you're already tethered, it's never made sense to me, and maybe it's never really made sense to you, why VR headsets need to be the size of an HTC Vive Pro. This came out like, what, 8 years ago now? Something like that. So it just seems like tethered headsets have finally moved on, and I'm really happy about that. One criticism just on the topic of comfort is that the facial interface still does have some issues. Pimax said that they're redesigning this and trying to get it right, but just with this particular unit that I've got, there is a lot of pressure just kind of on the forehead, and it's just not equally distributed in weight. There is a considerable amount of light bleed under the nose on this as well. But again, what I've got here probably isn't the final version. Pimax told me at CES that they were still working on this. So I would expect to see a different version when it retails, or even, third-party solutions. But despite that little gripe, this headset is overall the most comfortable headset I think Pimax has ever made. Headsets like the Crystal Light are just so big and so heavy that for me, they always just felt like they only really worked in seated conditions, which is at least a contributing factor in why I tend to recommend them for like sim racing and flight sims and stuff. One small brownie point is that the setup was actually the easiest that I've had with any Pimax headset. Historically, I feel like I've just had issues getting them to turn on and run out of the box on the first try without having to make some sort of like adjustment or switch the run times or something else. I'm sure if you've purchased a Pimax product, you can probably relate to that. Maybe I'm getting more experienced at setting them up and playing around with Pimax headsets, but it also could just be kind of better in that department. I was switching back and forth between the Beyond 2E, the Quest 3, and the Dream Air like for days on end, and all on the same computer, and had no issues. And the eye tracking and the dynamic foveated rendering may be playing a role in that. I ran this on a few different computers, one with a 4070 Ti, one with a 3080, and one with a 3070 Ti, and it seemed to handle, honestly, just fine, even on the 3070 Ti, which surprised me because I feel like, at least in my experience, the Crystal Super is not that forgiving. It's a really nice headset, and it's the first Pimax headset that I've tried or reviewed or wanted to talk about on the channel that I feel like I didn't have to caveat my recommendation with something like, well, it's great for sim racing, probably better for you if you're a real VR enthusiast. I would only recommend this for people who have really established setups and beefy PCs. What I'm saying is, if somebody walked in right now and asked me what the best PCVR headset is on the market, short of like some enterprise stuff that costs like $3,000 to $5,000, this is probably what I would point them to. And if I wanted to jump into Blade and Sorcery or Half-Life Alyx on Steam right now, this is the headset that I would grab. Which brings me to my next point about it, which is that I feel like Pimax is really positioning this as a headset that could appeal to enthusiasts, that does appeal to enthusiasts, but it also could appeal to people who are just looking for a really good PCVR headset and a solid upgrade from something like 2 generations ago, because this is not just one product. It's 4 different headsets. You've got the Dream Air at $19.99 with the Lighthouse tracking, the Slam version at $22.99 with the controllers, and then you've got the Dream Air SE at $8.99 with Lighthouse tracking, or $11.99 for the Slam tracking and controller version. And what's interesting to me, and what's important for you to know, is that all of the things that I just told you that I really liked about the Dream Air, like the audio and the lenses and the comfort and the form factor, should mostly carry over to the SE. Same optical stack, just at a lower resolution, but it still has the micro OLED panels. Same audio, same basic weight I don't have an SE on hand to test, so I can't really tell you exactly how that experience holds up at that price, but if even most of what makes the Dream Air good translates down, the Dream Air SE is going to be a pretty serious headset for the money. At $899, it's way cheaper than the Big Screen Beyond 2E, and even cheaper than the base Beyond 2 without the eye tracking, and even cheaper than some of the Vive Pro Eyes that I've seen on eBay lately. Especially with Valve having discontinued their base stations a while back, the SLAM option is going to matter for a lot of people. More than you might give it credit for if you've been in VR for a while. If you're new to PCVR and you don't have lighthouses, you can buy a micro OLED tethered headset for $11.99 with everything included, and you can just bypass those end-of-life hardware requirements. That's the kind of move that I keep wishing that other companies in VR would make. Meta could make a Quest 3 Pro with OLED displays alongside the 3 and the 3S, or a tethered headset like the Rift Pro or something. Apple could ship a Vision SE around the Galaxy price point, but they haven't. Big Screen could do a SLAM version of the Beyond, and none of them are doing that, which I've always thought was kind of weird. And Pimax is doing it, which is weirder for some reason. So if the Dream Air is a genuinely good headset, and the SE version is going to take most of what's good about it and make it accessible at a much lower price point, the real question isn't whether or not any of that's true or whether or not it's good. The real question is something else. And that's what I kept getting stuck on when I was thinking about writing this review, or when I was writing it, is that Pimax just kind of has this weird history with the VR community. They've made some of the most ambitious VR hardware available, but they've also made some pretty frustrating products and frustrated a lot of people. If you read what people have to say online, their support has been pretty hit or miss. There's just a reason that Pimax is kind of seen as something that you only really tend to deal with if you're into a big setup or just like troubleshooting. They've kind of earned that reputation, and that is a problem for them, because when Pimax ships a headset that's actually good, like genuinely impressive, the people who are the most likely to buy it are also the people who already have opinions about Pimax. The Dream Air is a $2,000 headset, and it's not aimed at somebody who's walking into VR for the first time. It's aimed at an enthusiast, the person who already has the base stations and controllers and the beefy PC, and that person has already lived through enough Pimax launches to be pretty cautious about the next one. So you've got this really good headset made by a company that a lot of people in the community don't trust, aimed at an audience that has the most reason not to trust them. But the SE almost solves that problem, because at $899 you're starting to talk to a new crowd of people who might be willing to give Pimax a fresh look because they don't really have a history with them. So Pimax is in a really weird position right now, because I think that they've built the best product that they've ever made, and they've priced it more aggressively than anyone else in the category. They're offering options on their headsets that nobody else is offering. So the biggest barrier to success for the Dream Air isn't whether or not the product's good, it's everything else that came before it. And that's, I guess, what I feel like I was having a hard time saying before. It's really easy to review or grade a headset on specs and its build and its features and its price, but you can't really grade a headset on whether or not the company that made it is going to be given a chance. And that's an actual question for the Dream Air. But the headset is still on pre-order. They're still working out some kinks on little things like the facial interface. But I really hope that they pull it off, and I hope that more people get a chance to try this headset, because it is a really nice headset. And I love really cool headsets, and I love seeing VR companies make them and deliver on their promises. But if you've been a Pimax skeptic, or, hesitant on the thought of tethered PCVR, do you think that this changes anything for you? If you're primarily a standalone headset player, or just you've been burned by Pimax before, would this be something that would make you reconsider? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, because I really want to know what you guys think about this one. Or if there's something you feel like I missed and maybe I should have talked about a little bit more. So just let me know, I guess. And don't forget about the giveaway. I'm giving away a bunch of Quest 3 and 3S stuff, so you can check that out in the link below. But anyway, I think that's really all I got for you guys today. So we'll see you on the next one.